Well, maybe we can start just with introductions and get uh that way if Faith comes while we're doing that, she won't have missed too much, hopefully. I wanted to do a round of introductions. One, because some of us have only met each other once, some of us have met each other 0 times, and but also to fold in like a little bit of uh learning about what brings you to like what draws you to wanting to help plan this event. So maybe if you could tell us just like your name, I don't know where you live, something like that, and then why you volunteered to help plan the MLK Junior and Curtis Scott King Day.
What's the start? I'll go first.
Exactly. Now it's like we just stare at each other until someone starts talking.
Okay. No, so Teresa, and the reason why I wanted to plan this because I've participated in the ones before, and I really enjoy going to the events. And I couldn't go last year, but the years before, I usually take my son, and that's like one thing that we do. I'll take the day off from work, and we'll make a day out of it, and just to kind of create conscience for him, and also to learn what's it about, and understand. And then that's kind of what we take a day for ourselves and do that every year. So I figured now that I'm part of it, I think that would be good for me. It was something that I would be happy to be a part of. So that's fine.
We want to do so when I have meetings at work, we do like the person who just spoke calls on the next person to go. Do we want to do it that way, or just like speak up if you want to speak up? Okay, let's do the calling. Oh. So you get to choose someone, Teresa.
Oh goodness. All right, so I'll go with Jeremy.
Okay, so my name is Jeremy. I live on Valley Street here in Wakefield for the last 16 years. So why did I volunteer to be on this board or subcommittee? I think it's a very important date, but I think that there's a lot more around it than just, the name. So I want to try to have an influence on, how we spin it with community service or leadership in the community, and not just, some of the things that have always been tagged with the day, but maybe make it broader. And especially this year with the virtual challenge, I think I can bring some good ideas based on some conferences and things like that that I've been involved in for work that have gone from in-person with thousands of people to virtual over 2 days. So yeah, and it's the first opportunity on the new board to get involved with something like this. So how about we go to Miss Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole Jacob. I live in the Greenwood area. I've been here in Massachusetts probably about 11 years. I'm from Chicago originally. I chose to be on the subcommittee because, I've gone to the last few MLK Day of Service, and I really enjoyed it. I went to one in Cambridge, and I just was really moved by the whole premise of just not saying, hey, we're celebrating Martin Luther King, but just really the work that he really tried to instill upon the people, serving others, treating others well, and things like that. So I just, I really like the whole, like the community service piece of it. I really means a lot to me. So, so that is why. And then my son, last year was the first year that he was able to do a part of it. And that was really meaningful to get him up there to, he read a poem, and I thought it was good. So then letting people know that other poets that are African-American or something else, that just to kind of widen the mind and the ideas of what different art type things that African-Americans have done. So that is why. E. Rooney, Elizabeth, is that your name?
It's no. Eileen, it's okay, but I'll answer to that too.
That's okay.
A good guess.
I tried to play around with the naming on the Zoom and gave up. I was like, nope, it's okay. So my name is Eileen. We have lived in Wakefield for 3 years. We actually live almost right behind the Wakefield train station. You probably hear the train as it goes by while we're talking. Honestly, I think it's a couple of different reasons why I'd like to be involved. We haven't been in Wakefield for very long. And so, you know, the opportunity to meet other people is really important, I think. More diverse members of the community is actually really important to us as well. And then the opportunity, like Jeremy mentioned, to sort of, you know, work on a project that would be essentially virtual, I would assume. We can't think that far ahead anymore. We really can only plan for the next 30 days, but I would guess that it would probably be virtual, and really it's to get to know people and to learn more than what I know now. So thanks for having me. I'm excited. Benny, you're left.
I'm left. I'm Benny Wheat. I go by she, her, hers pronouns. I also live in the Greenwood area, and I also live right next to the train tracks. So you and me, Nicole, in Greenwood, and you and me, Eileen, right next to the train, except I live next to the Greenwood station. And you probably won't hear the train go by because my windows are closed. But normally, whenever I'm having Zoom meetings, I sit right next to the window, and if it's open, there's always this moment where it's like, okay, wait, hold on. Wait for it. Hold on 1 second. The train's going by. So anyway, and let's see, I sort of compulsorily volunteered for this committee, one, because I'm the only person on the Human Rights Commission right now that helped to plan the event last year. And I'm not the only one, like there's other members of the commission who have helped to plan previous years, but I think because I was partly involved last year, as part of the reason that I'm here now. But also beyond that, I am like very passionate about being involved in planning this event, because I don't know, I feel compelled to help guide this event to be like as moving and impactful as it can be. I think that it's been a really important event for the town, and I think that it could be like even more impactful than it has been in the past. And so I feel very motivated to do that. And also I had mentioned this in the Human Rights Commission meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, I do have a, like my personal wish would be for there to be more content in the event about actual structural oppression, in addition to community, like service to the community, because I think that it's odd to me for that piece to be missing, but I think we can talk more about what portion of different things we want to include, but that's where I'm coming from. Cool, well, thanks everybody. The next thing I wanted to talk about on the agenda is just to recap past year's events. Has anybody here not been to the events, the MLK Day event before? Eileen hasn't been, Jeremy hasn't been. And I also have only lived in town for like 2.5 years. So I've been to one. I went to the one last year, but I hadn't been to any previous one. So I'll give my recap of last year's, and then maybe people who've been to like more than one can like share more about what past events have looked like. So the format for the event was sort of 3 parts, or that's how I kind of thought about it. There was a keynote speaker who last year was the director of the METCO program. There was an awards ceremony for people who have done community service that warrants recognition. And there's 3 awards that went out, one for a youth, one for a organization, and one for like another individual. And then interspersed among those, there's like music and other, like the reading that Nicole was describing. There was a couple of people who did readings. Our MC had opening remarks, closing remarks, things like that. And then after that whole event was a service, like a service opportunity, where last year what we did was we packed bags with like winter supplies for people who are unhoused in our town or neighboring towns. So bags full of like hats and scarves and toothbrushes and deodorant, like all the stuff that you might need. So for people who have been to years past events, what else, like, can you add anything or talk more about what other events have looked like?
I remember the same thing you mentioned. It was the keynote speaker, then having the youth and talk about that, whatever. I think it was I don't think I really realized that it was kind of like a structure that they had where they gave the awards to people in the community and the organization, and then the music. That's what I remember. I didn't remember the part about the service opportunity. I don't know if that's something that started or that it was there, but I just totally missed it. But yeah, that's what it was. And it was at the Galvin Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same, right? That Teresa said. I remember the awards. I've been to two. The first one, I was only there for part of it, and the same thing. Like, I knew there was a community service portion. The first time I was able to stay as long, but I didn't know where it was. And the last year, I knew it was in the cafeteria. I think they've always done something, and maybe last year was a little bit bigger in the cafeteria, but not many people came in there to help pack up things. Well, while I was there, it was just me, Pina, and some other people, so it wasn't that many people in there packing up the bags. So, but that's what I remember too.
Cool. Let's see. The other thing I'll say, I guess, just to like flesh it out a little, is so there's the, we had an MC, there's the keynote speaker, there's other people who are doing readings or singing or things like that. There's the awards, and also in between some of those pieces, there were like presenters who would come up and see like our next song is going to be sung by so-and-so, whatever. And last year, I think there was a kind of a mix of different, the MC did some of that, and some of it was done by kind of people who were volunteering, who wanted to be involved in the event. And for the award ceremony, the awards are presented by like local politicians. Like, I think the town councilors, or maybe one of the local like state reps. There was like various people there in that role. So there's also kind of like smaller little pieces that people were involved with. Oh, there's also a reading of scripture, like one of the pastors in town like did an invocation or whatever the thing in the beginning is called, like a blessing or something.
And then we had like a button competition too with the schools.
Oh yes,
elementary schools.
Yeah, there was a competition that went out where all the kids in the elementary schools were invited to submit like a drawing for a button, and then the winner of the competition, we printed like a whole bunch of buttons and we're giving out buttons to people. Benediction, that's the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also art hung up all over the walls in the Galvin that was from the schools as well. Like, we contacted the schools, and the art teachers at all the different schools did like MLK Day themed art projects. And then we collected those from the schools and hung them all up over the Galvin or around the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Okay. So now really, I think those are all the parts of the event so far. And so I wanted to ask you guys, the questions that I sent out ahead of time were kind of focused around thinking through what would make this event like particularly compelling or meaningful. How do we get there? How do we know whether or not we got there? And I have some specific feedback that I received from the diversity leaders last year that I can share with you. But let's talk first about that part. Like, do people have thoughts or ideas about what would make the event meaningful and how to move in that direction, or how to achieve that?
Well, I was, yeah, we probably can't do that. I forgot. Sorry, we're not in person. I was thinking about
Yeah.
I was thinking about the community service piece, just trying to I don't know, really get people to know, like, at least if you come for like part of the time and put some of the projects together, like maybe if people can't come all day, like I think the big, like, of course I want them to be there for the ceremony, but I also want the town, like if we could get like the whole town to at least participate in something of the event. And because like I'm just thinking, when my husband does the one in Cambridge, you know, they have a church ceremony thing, then people meet at different places like the Y and somewhere else, and they do the community service piece. They have a luncheon someplace else. And so it's like the whole town comes and at least does some piece of it. And that's, you know, that's just really meaningful, where everyone is involved some kind of, but we're virtual, so I don't know.
But I think, I mean, you can still involve the town through the schools, right? I think that's, I mean, the school, I think what you guys did last year with the art or themes or whatever we could do with the schools, I think that's a good way to kind of connect the community, especially because we have the schools in different parts of town too. And maybe it can involve different people. I don't know anything about the churches or anything like that in town, so I'm not the one to speak on that. But I think if we do something like that, that we get the schools, I don't know if anything else, kind of make it more of a community event, even if not everybody can be physically somewhere. But the other thing I was going to say is I just participated in the parent university that Wakefield did, and I thought they did a really good job with that. I always go to parent university. It's also at the Galvin, and I wasn't sure how they were going to do this one, but I thought it was good. I mean, they had a really great speaker the last day, and it was very powerful. I thought, I don't know his name right now, but and I think a lot of people were involved, and a lot of people were asking for more from this presentation that he did. It was about race. So I thought that was interesting, of how engaged I was during like a presentation. So I think it has to do too, who we get to talk and how good are they. I know not everybody's good about, and there's a lot of people that are very good about talking in person but not everybody's like that on Zoom. And I mean, I can't blame them. I'm horrible. So I think we have to think of like who can have like a good speakers or something that can be engaging for people.
So Benny, do you know in years past how they've reached out to the speaker or chosen the speaker?
I can speak just to last year, and it was sort of just brainstorming among the people who are on this subcommittee to think through like, Pina last year was the chair of the committee, and she was, her like process for thinking it through was, we need to have a theme, and then we can think through like who are, speakers that could be relevant to that theme, and then start seeing if we have anyone, kind of networking, seeing who we know in our networks that we could reach out to, things like that. So that was the process we used last year, and it just basically ended up being speakers who we could contact personally and see if they want to come.
Yeah.
And there was an emphasis on people who are like Wakefield residents, which the speaker last year is not, but it was relevant still, as like, because we have a MECO program in town, and she was the MECO director. So what were you going to say? I sort of spoke over you for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I personally think it's more powerful if it's somebody at least local that, people can relate to and see, this is from our community. It doesn't necessarily have to be Wakefield, like you said, but some tie to Wakefield or something like that. So I think the theme idea works well to tie it all together, no matter what you end up doing for the subparts, right? So, that I think that's a great idea to have the theme, and then, it doesn't have to be a specific in line with the theme, but at least tied to the theme at some point, right? Like we can think outside the box of how events or people tie into the theme. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the straight line down to connect them, but The theme is probably the hardest part though. So, and maybe it will come out of your input from the schools and stuff, right? So
yeah, maybe. What else? What are there other thoughts about what makes an event, an MLK event, particularly meaningful?
I mean, I think some of the things that you've already sort of talked about are sort of important, right? Like the reading, the town participation, pulling students in to be involved is going to be important, potentially at different levels, right? Elementary school student reading a poem that they've written about Martin Luther King, or some, you know, some involvement from the high school students as well. I think would be important. You know, something that Teresa mentioned about community service, you know, that's something that maybe we could do throughout the week versus it being a one-day thing. If we're still gathering, you know, whatever it is that, what organization did we end up collecting items for?
Some of it went to the Wakefield Police Department because they have Officer Amy Rando is their, she has a title, it's like family services,
like an advocate in the schools, right? Yeah.
Well, she does outreach to the homeless population in town, as well as like a bunch of other type of stuff. But so a bunch of it went to her, and then she sent me a photograph of her office, which is a closet, and it was full of stuff and there was no more room. So then we gave the rest of it, I think, to the warming center in Malden.
So, I mean, that's certainly something that, like, you know, year over year, people typically look forward to. I know that this is coming, and I make a donation to this in whatever way that is. And that could be something that we could maybe potentially work with different organizations in the town. I'm not sure how it'll work with COVID, but if there's an opportunity for us to have like a drop box somewhere so that people could leave things at the police department or the fire station or something like that. So we could sort of, you know, continue that community service piece. But I think Jeremy's right. Like, I think coming up with a theme will sort of help us direct the rest of what we want to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, do we want to brainstorm about that now? Does that seem like a helpful thing to do before we talk about other stuff?
Sure.
Yeah. So the theme last year was anyone can serve. I don't know what the themes were for prior years. I'm sure we could look it up somewhere, but and that is a line from an MLK speech, or part of a line. So, but I don't remember where it came from or how we came up with it. So I don't know. Do people feel inspired with any theme ideas?
Well, I keep thinking that this is kind of like a time to unite people, right? You have to come together somehow. I feel like we're in a very divided time, and something, and I think of that sort where you can just think of ways that we can kind of come together. I don't know. That's kind of what comes to my mind right now.
So there are like two buzzwords in diversity right now, right? And it's all about like allyship and intersectionality. And maybe there's a way for us to sort of connect that with like all of us coming together and sort of thinking through like maybe some of Martin Luther King's speeches, and there's going to be like that one phrase that connects us back together, you know?
I think too about like collective action, because certainly, so the theme of anyone can serve, I think goes part of the way towards this, but really the idea of, you know, action together as a community unit, in addition to any individual person's kind of like actions or choices, could be compelling.
I mean, one thing that comes to mind, I just said like united and moving forward or something like that. I don't know, I was just jotting down some things, but I I think it's a good plan too, to have like sort of a general theme, but then like you said, tie it into something that comes from some of those powerful words from Dr. King. But I'm sure there's those words in all of his speeches that can tie into, or somewhere in his words, you know, that can tie into something we come up with there. So yeah, it's a tough year to do it, because in theory, there could be like a resolution coming in December to this whole process. So, you know, so it will be an interesting time to see where people are at and what they need. So. Did you see anything, Benny, in the comments from the, you know, from the diversity leaders that might lead us to some sort of theme or what they're looking for?
Let's see. Let me bring up that document. Did I mail this to you? Email this?
Yeah, you did. So.
Okay. I will just share my screen just in case you don't have it in front of you. Let me make it bigger because I feel like the share screen is always so tiny. Is that readable?
Yep.
Sure.
So it's not super extensive, but these are the pieces of feedback. So I went to their class last year. It was supposed to be in preparation for last year's event, but there was like a snowstorm the day I was supposed to go and the school was closed. And then it took a really long time to reschedule a day that it was possible for me to join the class. And so I didn't end up actually going to the class until it might've been the week of or the week before the event. So it's too late to implement really their feedback for last year's event, but I wanted to hold on to it for this year. So these are the things I said. Some sort of basic educational pieces, but kind of connecting those past campaigns to present day, like what's going on today to make it relevant. Speakers who can have like impactful personal stories to share that impact people emotionally. A powerful youth speaker. Don't have a lot of speeches or long speeches, but focus on powerful speeches, which I appreciate that piece of feedback. Connecting with the audience in a variety of ways, like the poems, the speeches, the singing, and the, you know, lots of different things. Helping people know how to get involved in current, you know, movements for social justice or other ways to serve the community, and this says making the connection that the legacy of Dr. and Mrs. King's work is partially about racial justice, but more broadly about many forms of structural oppression. So I don't know, looking at this, do people feel like you see themes that are important to lift up?
I'm wondering if we, I mean, like, I know the election will be over, and I don't know if this is too strong of a theme, but just about not necessarily focusing on voter suppression, but just how, you know, things that different people are suppressed in being able to do things because of X, Y, and Z, and how, something like that. And I was just looking at some of the quotes from Mrs. King, and the one that stood out was like, the greatest of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate action of its members. And so I think like, kind of like, we're like all talking about how to bring the community, how to make the community more compassionate to others, how, you know, structural racism really affects people. Anyway, that just, it just meant something to me. I just wanted to read it. Not like.
Can you read it one more time?
Yeah.
Sure. It says, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. We often don't talk a lot about her work. She like falls in the background. And so I think also, you know, bringing her to the forefront could be good this year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
So maybe we can structure the theme around compassionate for others, or compassionate for yourself and others, you know, or a compassionate community. Are we a compassionate community, or we are a compassionate community? Something like that. I really like that quote, you know, so. And it goes along with our theme too, right? Like, you know, compassionate for everyone in Wakefield, and the awareness of the diversity. And like you said, it focuses on Mrs. King, you know, and brings some emphasis there, which I think is a nice part, because, you know, her name's not on the holiday, right? Or the day. So she's just as important a part of the movement. So I don't know. Is that too sort of idealized? I don't know, you know? So
yeah, I'm wondering about, say again, Nicole?
No, just saying I like what you said, Jeremy.
I think that it glides past the piece about
the oppression.
Yeah. And so I wonder how to bring that into focus.
Yeah, because I highlighted your last point too, that, you know, the schools brought up, you know, not just the racial justice part, but all forms of the structural oppression. So, and that, you know, that goes to what you kind of wanted to see added on, Benny, from, you know, to not just being about one kind, but all of the structural oppression that's out there. So.
Well, this is a good brainstorm, because now we have like 5 themes, but also what are we going to do? Because I feel like we have the compassion, you know, a focus on compassion, on, you know, sort of the different forms that oppression can take and what that looks like in our communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we don't necessarily have to come up with the final one tonight. We can still outline sort of types of events, and then slot them under, you know, what kind of theme is sort of morphed into the final one. So, you know, I'm not sure we can decide in an hour or less what the ideal theme is, but we can definitely capture these and get people thinking about them, you know, in between. So
yeah.
And I'm just thinking, you know, I don't know if we'll be able to do it, but like our church services started all via Zoom, but now we've moved into having people in the sanctuary taping it, so it's live parts. So, you know, we may be able to do a similar thing for the day, where we have a, you know, sort of central place where speakers are slotted to come in. So it's like a live thing, but it's, you know, broadcast via Zoom or something like that. And then like the art show could be a slideshow that plays in between, or, you know, things like that. So I just want to put those out there while they're in my head. I don't want to change the subject or anything, but.
Yeah, that's similar to the agency where I work is planning our big fundraiser, like what would normally be a gala and is now a Zoom event. And it's like that. There's like a video that plays, and then there's a speech, and then there's, you know, some other thing that happens. It's like sort of like like you're saying, this like blend of kind of live and recorded components.
Yeah, so what that allows us to do too is not be tied into the person or whoever's doing it has to be there that day.
Yeah, that's true.
Recorded. So, you know, that opens up
a good idea.
Another potential set of speakers or students, you know, they might not feel comfortable just doing it live, but they could definitely do a Zoom or something or reading like that. So, because I suspect.
Yeah, I'm thinking like those short videos, right? That people do now. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But I was thinking like the kids, I know they do a lot of those short videos. I mean, I'm not saying they have to do TikTok, but something like maybe that we can have like a hashtag, some sort of campaign going on for Wakefield.
Yeah, I mean, a whole part could just be, you know, a bunch of students or younger people in the community saying what the day means to them.
Right.
What
like a compilation.
You know, and that, you know, that's easy. I don't know about getting the participation, but it's obviously something that can be advertised early on and get put together and then, you know, broadcast as part of the show. And the good thing about it being through Zoom is that it can always be attached to our, you know, Human Rights Commission page. And if people can't make the event, at least they can see the content and the speakers. They won't be able to do necessarily the community service portion, but, you know, a lot of it will get captured. So,
I think another thing we could do too in terms of the community service portion is make some kind of maybe resource guide or something for people who are interested in getting involved, where again, like a service event where everyone comes together and does the thing all together might not be as possible this year unless it's like outdoors or something, but creating opportunities for people to get involved.
It's almost like a service challenge, right? Like, you know, like some of the half marathons or whatever are virtual. You tape yourself doing the run or whatever. So we can think about, you know, even, you know, like you said, giving out different opportunities and then maybe giving incentive or maybe not incentive, but just having a place where people can then post me working at, you know, Cradles to Crayons or whatever for a day, you know, or whatever, or, you know, going out in the community and helping at the food pantry or collecting donations for the food pantry or stuff like that. So, or like you know, maybe even working with the officer to stuff bags or go hand out the things to the homeless people, you know, so.
Yeah. I think having some sort of list of resources, like of things that people can do in the community, volunteer, I think that's awesome because I don't know. So I'm sure there's a lot of people. I mean, I know the food pantry I've heard, and I know sometimes in the community page, people will ask, like, you know, my kid is this age, he wants to help out. What do you guys know? You know, so I think if we have that or if we can share that with people, I think that would be good too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it helps. It's kind of like what Eileen, what you were saying in the beginning of wanting to get involved and like work on things with people and connect with your community. You know, helping to create sort of more like ongoing ways for that to happen, not just on this one afternoon, but you know, as a member of this community, but 365 days a year, you could be doing this more than just on one day.
Right.
I love these ideas. I'm like so stoked. I was just thinking about, I was like picturing in my head some compilation of a bunch of like kids and teens speaking, you know, from the heart about what is something. And I just feel like it would be totally moving.
Yeah, I think it would be good.
I really like Jeremy, what you're saying about, like, I was just thinking about the virtual races that I've been doing and the challenges. And I think it could be fun if we made it like a virtual service challenge just for the town. And if, like he was saying, if they did something, or that Teresa was saying to upload the video, like I was like thinking like, oh, maybe the teens could go and play instruments outside of Brightview because they can't get any visitors and they can hear it, or, you know, that's something, or, you know, like anything, you know, packing up groceries like you were saying and delivering them. I think that could be like a fun, really nice interactive part of it as well.
Yeah, and I just had another thought about, I don't know how hard it would be to put together, but like a virtual scavenger hunt around the theme or within the town that sort of culminates on Martin Luther King Day, right? Like, you know, release it a couple weeks before and people, you know, families or whatever can participate in it. And then, posted, and it could be just a way of gaining awareness about, you know, certain things in town, certain monuments, certain locations where things might have happened, certain gravestones or locations where past leaders might be that nobody knows about. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but you know, it'll be in the winter, but it would get people out and about and learning about the town and things, instead of, you know, if you can't have everybody in one place one day, then try to make them go many places over, you know, the months or month leading up to it. So.
And we could partner with the Wakefield Historical Society or
the library may know.
The library.
So, I mean, I'm sure people on the town council as well have some of that knowledge, you know. So, but yeah, for sure. So, just thinking about things where you don't have to have huge groups and it's educational, but you know, kind of fun too. So,
here comes the train, Eileen. Get ready.
No,
I hear it too.
Me already. It's already.
It was going.
It's heading into Boston. Yeah.
Yes. So I like it too, because that also brings in the historical component. Like one of the things that the youth last year were asking for was like learning about the past and like how that's relevant to us today. So this could, I feel like, be say we have the scavenger hunt leading up to the day, and then if there's a way to tie in, have one of the videos on the day of be something about like tying in those historical figures or events to, you know, current day life or something like that.
Before I forget, I mean, I wonder if we should also be thinking about the students that organized the Black Lives Matter march to the high school a couple of months ago, and somehow involve them in whatever it is that we're doing, right? If that's like a speech, if that's them talking about their involvement and how they sort of pulled it together, but just thinking about that out loud.
I think they could be the keynote speakers, honestly. And in fact, so one of the three people who organized that march is on this subcommittee, but she's not here right now. Faith, I think something happened. I'm not sure why she's not here, but I should have texted her actually. Anyway. But I think that's an awesome idea, having them. Yeah.
I mean, their experience and their own experience of doing that, like just how they organized it, and
yeah,
you know, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, because talk about bringing the town together.
I know.
And you know, fighting structural oppression and like all the things. That's like,
yeah, courage to just
and they're women.
Yes,
do your part to make change, you know, and not be afraid to do it. So
yeah, awesome.
I often think that the younger people are much better off in terms of diversity and things than we are as our generation, because I think I said it before, that my boys are in Scouts and they don't even question when you have transgender or, you know, something like that. They actually say, isn't it more annoying to call them out and to make a big deal of it, you know? So, or, you know, to like be taught about it. We just accept them for who they are. So, you know, that the youth are very powerful if we can really involve them in here. And, you know, people in the town like to see the younger people in town having a real impact on the community.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And it's great too, because like they bring their parents with them, you know. I feel like the young people teach their parents what's up, you know.
Right. So that's what I was saying about the school involving the kids, because that usually the whole household, right? When your kid is doing something, I know from my experience, like I'm all over it when it's something that has to do with the kids.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We've got about 10 or 12 minutes left. We have like a lot of rich ideas for our theme, ideas for our components of the event. Oh, I wanted to ask actually specifically, so I brought this up in the HRC meeting. I want to know what people think. So I have like a personal vendetta against the award ceremony, But like,
I remember that.
I want to know what other people think, or like, what is it? I don't know. Just like check me if that is like off base, or what do you think we should do?
What is your vendetta before we before we critique it? What are your personal challenges with it?
I just didn't find it compelling. You know, it's I appreciate the sentiment of like rewarding good service, right? And like lifting that up and exemplifying that to the community. And also it's like having a presenter to present another presenter to present an award to a person who then gives a speech for 10 minutes about like some random stuff, not random, like it's important to them. And I don't want to, I feel like I'm being dismissive of that, but it's kind of, it didn't hang together, you know, it was a little bit like loose and meandering. And so it's like, I want to have the focus on good service, but the format didn't really work for me. So maybe it's more about format. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts?
Well, I did like the awards here. I like hearing about the people who got the award. I will agree that it probably made the event go a little bit long, but maybe we can still present them their award, but have a little top thing about them in the program. And then we just call them all up. They can just come up and you just present them the award. They don't make a speech or something. But I kind of felt like I liked seeing the variety of the, you know, like the different type of awards, and finding out about the guy who started, Bill, I can never say his last name. Bill C. Yeah. And his mission and how it came. Like I enjoyed hearing that. So
you know,
that's
what
just
might
my
be
take.
Interesting is like an interview format, you know, instead of a speech, like to have like a little, you know, side by side, like tell me about this work you did. How did you get into this? What are the rewards that you've gotten from it? You know, things like that. Just like brief. It would, I mean, I don't think it should go on for like 20 minutes.
I do like that.
Yeah, I think brief.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, if someone's getting an award and someone's introducing them and giving like a paragraph long speech about how fantastic they are, and then you give them the award, is it necessary for them to then talk for another 20 minutes about it if we've already done the introduction? No, probably not. But what if we then take that blurb and we ask the Wakefield item to highlight them with the paragraph about all of the work that they've done and a photo of them in the paper too? Is that cheesy?
No, I think that's nice.
Like it.
I like the personalized like interview format, the same types of questions to the award winners, because I mean, in the past they've come from sort of 3 different regions of the community, so you can see the similarities and differences along the same questions, right? So instead of having a speech, I do like to propose questions. You know, how did you come about with this idea or whatever? You know, what challenges did you overcome to get where you are now? You know, would you do it again? Why not? Or, you know, if you had to start over, what would you do different? Who would you involve? Stuff like that. And I think that can be really cool. And again, it can be done virtually, you know, beforehand. You know, you can do it
right
very easily, because we're not going to have huge gatherings by January. There's no way, right? Like, absolutely. So we definitely have, I'm sure we're definitely going to be locked into some sort of virtual electronic format, with, you know, maybe 2 or 3 people in a room with, you know, masks and socially distanced doing interviews or whatever, but who knows? So, but I definitely like the interview format. I'm not sure if they should be called awards. Maybe more just, I don't know, like award makes it sound like there's a competition, right? And I think that's your point, Benny, is that you want to get away from sort of the competition aspect of it, because it should be something that everybody wants to do without being rewarded. That's the whole reason it's called community service or whatnot. So, but I definitely think we could put in some sort of component where we acknowledge or highlight, maybe we should call it highlighting someone in the community, someone who's in the, you know, what is it? Is it a student that gets one?
Yeah, there's one student, one
a business, and then sort of a nonprofit, something like that.
Yeah, it's a business or nonprofit or organization, and then another individual, like an adult, someone in town.
So I mean, definitely can call them more as a highlight or something like that, or because I know they're tied into the original founder of our committee, right? Like I think that's something we don't want to lose, given how adamant the town council was about it and everything. I watched the whole you know, service there, the whole thing there. But I think it's key to keep the mission of our board and our commission in play there. So because it's probably one of the biggest events, right, that this commission puts on in terms of visibility. So
yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
On the other hand, we got to make sure we don't bite off more than we can handle, right? So that's the other thing. So.
Okay, well, let's see. I guess the question now is, first of all, we should schedule another meeting, which was like really somewhat challenging to find a time that we all can meet. Maybe not surprising, but between now and whenever that fictional next meeting is, are there next steps that we should be doing to start getting ready? Like, do we want to take the dive and like I can talk to Faith about her and her co-leaders being the if they want to be the keynote speakers, or do we want to, I don't know, like what steps should we start taking to start moving things forward?
Yeah, no, I was definitely think if we want to touch base with them, if they can be like our keynote speakers, and then kind of think of what format they might feel more comfortable doing. If it's something that maybe we want to do like a video that they want to record, or is it something that we're going to do more like of them talking live during the event, or just kind of get their sense and their ideas on how they think, you know, be the best way to kind of present it. And I don't know, I think we should probably start thinking about how to get the community involved, right? Because if that's probably going to be, I mean, we're already in November. I'm thinking like, if we want to do something, you know, starting kind of like the wave of, you know, this is coming up and this is how we want you guys to participate, we have to kind of give the schools some heads up, and any other organization about it, right? So
yeah, definitely. I think one thing we should try to do is, you know, I think the theme is kind of shaped up, but we should try to nail down that one before we meet again anyway, even if it's via emails. And I don't know how much of it can be done via email, just given the you know, openness to the community we need. But
yeah, I think we're not allowed to deliberate over email, which basically is anything other than.
So maybe the thing would be for everybody to, you know, formalize your own sort of theme and bring it back to the next meeting for sure. So that in the beginning we can just hammer out the theme. I think we're close to where we want to be anyway. I think it's just getting the wording right, because then you have that when you reach out to the schools and the other places in the community, you have that theme already there so that they know kind of where to go. You know, you can say, oh, you know, put together a few sentences around this, but if they don't have the theme you're going for, it could be all over the place, which might not be a bad thing. Might be very entertaining and informational, but I think for us it'll make life easier if next meeting in the beginning we can really finalize the wording of the theme. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking another thing that could be helpful to start doing is reaching out to organizations in town that do accept like volunteer efforts, to say like, we're thinking about doing this thing, maybe with a volunteer challenge. Because I know, so the agency where I work, we have had to reduce our volunteer opportunities because we can't do stuff in person very easily. So things like that, like what type of volunteerism would be helpful to your organization? Would you like to be listed as one of the options for people to volunteer with? Things like that, like seeing if we can reach out to our networks and see what organizations are looking for volunteers. And the other thing I was going to say, oh, the award ceremony thing, the way we've done it in the past is putting out like a request for nominations. And then we get all the nominations and then we decide who gets to win the award. And so the sort of process, that's a little bit of a slow process because you have to like, we put it in the paper and we put it on the Facebook page and like do various things to like solicit nominations. So we have to like have lead time for that. So I don't know if that's something that we want to start now, or if that's something we do sort of, that's maybe the next step after we've decided the theme, then we start soliciting nominations that kind of fit that theme in some way.
What are you thinking of for the next meeting, like within a week?
Yeah, well, let's see. It has to be maybe 2 weeks. So if magically we could find a time for next week, I would have to post it like tomorrow.
So let's say 2 weeks. So
yeah,
if we did that nomination process in 2 weeks, I think it would still give enough time, right?
Yeah, I think so, because it's just.
So I definitely think that one we can, sort of talk about in the next meeting and finalize what that would look like to go out and then request nominations at that point into the community.
Among the 5 of us, are there people here who are involved in organizations that seek volunteers or know people who are?
So you're talking about locally, right? You're talking about in Wakefield, or
That's
can
what
it
I'm
be?
thinking, or at least like nearby Wakefield or adjacent.
So I have a good contact in Stoneham who actually works on their MLK Day celebration. He and his wife do a lot in the community, not just in Stoneham, but around. So I can definitely reach out to her and see what I can find out, for at least the Wakefield, Stoneham, Melrose, Reading area things. So, because I think our community isn't just Wakefield, like people come from all over for the lake and, and so, granted we're for Wakefield, but I think, the opportunities are limited if we just say in town. So,
yeah,
but I can definitely reach out to the 2 of them. No problem. So,
and I can reach out to, there's a couple of members of the former members of the Human Rights Commission who were heavily involved in both the food pantry and the community meals program. So I can reach out to them and see like what the opportunities look like there.
I don't know any local organization. So if you think of a name or somebody, I mean, I can definitely call and find out. I can do the homework, but I don't really know. Or where would I start to find out?
I mean, we could just ask, I could like ask people, other parents.
Okay. All right. I can definitely ask. Yeah, I'll ask.
Yeah. I'll ask.
Do the same.
Yeah. I know places in Malden, but I bet at I wonder if stuff at Melrose Wakefield, if they would, what they need. Because I know we have a Mothers Helping Mothers closet, but that also is in Malden. So.
Okay. All right. So that's
another option is,
I guess, for all of us to ask.
Yeah. I think just like ask around. And another option is the people who received our awards last year or in previous years, like they're part of the food pantry was one of them last year. One of them is like an organization that sends books to Polynesia or something. And one of them was like a young woman who does environmental organizing. But so another idea would be to reach out to past award recipients to see like, is your organization taking volunteers? So that's another thing. I have all their email addresses and stuff because I was coordinating with them for the awards last year, so I can reach out to them.
And Benny, wasn't one year, maybe the year before that, didn't an award go to one of a teacher or something in Malden or Cambridge or something like that?
I don't know.
I think I feel like, whew, maybe I'm getting places mixed up. Anyway.
No, I think it was a gentleman, right?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, wasn't he a teacher?
Yeah, I
or
think
was he the
was
keynote? Was he the
I
keynote?
I think he might have been, but I'm not 100%. But I remember him. Yeah.
Not last year, but the year before, the keynote speaker was Teray Howell, who's a lawyer. I point this way because he lives over there.
In Greenwood. At the train.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he's the only other keynote that I like know off the top of my head.
Benny, you mentioned that there was it an officer from the Wakefield Police Department that works with the homeless?
Yeah, Officer Amy Rando is the Family Services Officer. That's what she's called. Something like that. So she does various different things. Like she handles like domestic violence cases and sort of like social issues that have become within the sphere of the police, world now.
Yeah. I wonder if she would know if there are organizations that are.
I bet you she would. I'm sure. And like, I think other members of the Wakefield Human Rights Commission also would, like Maria probably knows lots of other stuff too. So I think we can put out our feelers and get a good sense of what the organizations in the area might be. And then once we have that idea, maybe we can like divvy them up and each of us contact 2 people or something and to see who's interested.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so then between now and our next meeting, each of us will kind of put out our feelers, see what we can learn about organizations in the area. And we'll each think about the theme and try to sort of individually cement some theme that feels compelling to us, and then we'll decide next time. And I will also reach out to Faith to ask if she and her co-leaders would be interested in being our keynote speakers, and in what way, like what format would work for them. And so does the doodle work for people? Is that a helpful tool for scheduling the next meeting?
Yeah, it's good for me anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't reply right away.
That's okay. So I'll do that again. I might just send it right now as soon as we finish before I forget and get distracted for like 6 days, which is what always happens. And then hopefully we can find a time in the next couple of weeks to come back together. One thing that I just wanted to ask really quickly before we finish then is I'm like obsessed with evaluation and knowing like what's good and what could be better. So I just wanted to ask you all in real time right now for this meeting, are there any things that worked well that you want to do more of, or any things that were like, that wasn't that helpful, let's not do more of that?
I thought it was all good. Just getting a feel of everything. So I thought it was good.
Yeah. Very good.
Seemed to work great.
Yeah, I thought you were very good about giving us the info up front too. So even if we didn't study it in detail, at least we had at least I had overlooked it some beforehand. So, and I don't have any negatives for the meeting. So, good job, Benny.
Yeah.
Good job, all of you. I feel so energized. Like this is how you know it's a good meeting, I think, is when I leave the meeting feeling like energy and excitement. Sometimes I leave meetings and I'm like, oh my God, why? But this is good. I feel good. Thanks you all for being a part of it and being enthusiastic about joining this new group, first ever event that you're like all organizing. So this is great. And thank you, Eileen, for joining, just like because you're extra cool.
Oh, well. Well, then you get a great A++ for saying just that. But thanks for including me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're all excited. Everybody's excited. Great. I hope that you all have excellent evenings, and I will see your faces again sometime soon.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Stay well.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.